use that on my podcast.
Okay, we're going to get this thing started. I want to welcome everybody to the Moms for Liberty and Leadership Institute Town Hall. This is our Giving Parents a Voice Town Hall. We've been doing a series of these throughout the country. We have 5 strong chapters here in Iowa of Moms for Liberty members, and so we're here, Moms for Liberty members, and so we're here to serve. But the one thing that Tiffany and I know is that public education is vital to the success of our country. We are supporters of public education. We love public education. There's a lot of problems with public education. And the one thing we know is having parents involved is the best indicator of success for children. And so the goal of Moms for Liberty is to get all parents, every ideology, every belief system in America involved in public education so that we can make it the best in the world. So tonight is going to be about you, and about public education, and about Iowa. And if I could just say one thing, I landed in Iowa yesterday. I was very concerned about the weather being from Florida. It was beautiful today. But the one thing I've already learned about Iowa is the nicest people in the country here in Iowa. And I don't say that to, just fill up your heads with niceness. I mean, I have never driven down a road and turned my blinker on every single time in the last day and a half. And then the car just backs off. In Florida, they floor it as many cars as they can to get by you. So it's really lovely being here. I just think the most, just the nicest people. I'm grateful to be here. So let's get this started. I do a little bit of housekeeping here. We have some really amazing people here that took time out of their very busy schedule. We're going to introduce those on the stage a little bit later, but we have some other elected officials here that I'd like to acknowledge. Please stand and be acknowledged when I call your name. We have Representative Mark Cisneros. You could stand. With his team, as his wife said earlier. We have Representative John Dunwell, if you could please stand. Representative Brad Sherman. Representative Barb McCullough. Representative Cindy Golding. And I hear many of these representatives that are either on stage or that we just called out our freshmen. They're newly elected representatives. So thank you. Other than the ones that are going to be speaking or on stage, did I miss any elected representatives that I did not acknowledge? If that is so, please stand and let's acknowledge you. Are there any elected school board members that are here tonight? Okay. I know the job of a school board member, so thank you for serving. That is one of the hardest elected jobs I think there is. And last but not least, can our 5 chapter chairs, I think there's 4 here tonight, that are running the chapters countywide for Moms for Liberty, please stand. Thank you, ladies, and all the members and their executive boards that help do the hard work that you are doing. We appreciate you. Okay, next up, we are all going to rise for the national anthem that is going to be sung by high school student from West Des Moines, J.J. McLaughlin. When he is finished, come on out. When he is finished, we're going to have an invocation given by our chapter chair from Lynn County, Geraldine Jones. Please remain standing for the invocation. And following her, Amy Day from our Carroll County chapter chair is going to give a Madison minute. JJ.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I just ran in heels right then, and I didn't fall, so we're good. Thank you so much for this opportunity to do the invocation. Please join me as we bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to gather here tonight. As we hear discussions that take place, I ask that you open up our ears to what has happened, not only just around the country, but what we hear right here on our home soil. Lord, we are cognizant of the battle taking place for our children's minds. Lord, I ask you that you grant each and every one of us the strength and courage to stand before the enemy and to protect these children you have given to us. The Bible teaches us about those given authority were done at your will. At the start of this great nation, it was Benjamin Rush who was called the father of education, and he taught on these three principles. 1, to teach students to love and serve God. 2, to teach students to love and serve their country. And 3, to teach students to love and serve their family. Dr. Rush put country before family because he understood that if you ever lost control of your country, it would become the great enemy of our families. And we know this rings true today. Father, we bow our heads and we pray that you will continue to lift up those who will defend that will defend your children in your mighty name. Lord, there is a shift taking place. It is a good shift. We feel it, and we owe it entirely to you. I bring us to the book of Esther, and though God was not specifically mentioned by name nor title, his presence fills these pages. Esther and Mordecai believed in God's care. They believed deliverance and safety came only from God, and because they acted at the right time, God chose them to save his people. Lord, oh Lord, as we face these challenges, we seek you. We are confident that your will be done. Lord, I ask that you hear our hearts, that you raise up the warriors you see fit, that we were born for such a time as this. Bless the men and women who made it out tonight. Bless the brave legislators for representing us Iowans boldly. Bless all those who made this event happen, and please guide us home safely tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.
Please be seated. The Madison Minute this evening is by John Adams' dissertation on the canon and feudal law, 1765. It should be your care, therefore, and mine, to elevate the minds of our children and exalt their courage, to accelerate and animate their industry and activity, to excite them an habitual contempt of meanness, abhorrence of injustice and inhumanity, and an ambition to excel in every capacity, faculty, and virtue. If we suffer their minds to grovel and creep in infancy, then they will grovel all their lives.
For those that don't know and aren't familiar with our organization, every event we do, every meeting, we have what we call a Madison Minute. It's named after the father of our Constitution, James Madison, and it's just a quote or a thought from a founder of our country that we share so that we can get back to our roots a bit. Now, we're going to step this baby up a notch as I have the honor of introducing your great governor. Okay, I gotta say some things about her first. She's the 43rd governor of Iowa. She is the first woman elected to the state's highest office. We love that. There's a lot of stuff in here that I'm gonna skip over, but she has served 4 terms as the Clark County Treasurer. She served as your lieutenant governor, and she is in her 2nd term, just re-elected as the governor of the great state of Iowa. As a personal story, not that I knew her before tonight, but as a personal story, shortly after we launched Moms for Liberty, somebody texted me a video and said, check this governor out. And I said, Iowa? Who's the governor in Iowa? And it was Governor Reynolds on the local news reading a passage out of All Boys Aren't Blue. And just the week prior, a mom of ours in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, found All Boys Aren't Blue in an elementary school in her daughter's library. The author of the book has come out and said it is for young adults in the sense of 18 and up. It's not meant for children. And yet, all across the country, that book is being found in middle schools as young as 11 years old, and obviously even in some elementary schools. And your governor had the courage to open that book and read straight from it on the news. And I said, that's a woman I want to meet. So let me introduce you to your governor, Kim Reynolds.
Go team, right? Let's go team. This is incredible. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. It is an incredible honor to serve as the governor of this great state and to have the opportunity to represent all of you. I just want to say thank you, Tina, for that really nice introduction. It truly is a pleasure for me to welcome you and Moms for Liberty to the free state of Iowa. Whoa! Yay! Hey, Corey, I want to say welcome back to Iowa. We're so glad to have you here. We appreciate it. We won't be silenced. Woo! Corey, Welcome back to the great state of Iowa. We want to say thank you for all that you do for parents and kids. We're proud to be leading the country with universal parental choice, and I think you're going to be busy this year. I think it's one of many to come, so thank you. But I truly am so thankful for Moms for Liberty for the efforts of a grassroots organization like this one. It truly is inspiring to see the way that concerned parents across this country have built a mass movement from the bottom up. And honestly, look at this crowd tonight. This is incredible. This is an incredible turnout. Clearly, the moms of Iowa, and hey, some dads, let's give them a lot of credit too, right? You are dialed in. So thanks for coming out, but even more importantly, I want to say thank you for speaking out, for your refusal to stand quietly by while we've seen the radical left treat our kids like their personal property. Not on your watch. Not on my watch. Not on our watch. I can tell, right? You know, I think I can say with certainty that most moms in this movement weren't looking for a fight for critical race theory or library books. Many, honestly, were probably barely involved in politics before 2020, and some really didn't even consider themselves conservatives yet. But none of that stopped this tidal wave from building. And by now, I think it should be obvious why. They came after our kids. They came after our kids, but they sure didn't plan for the moms. Big mistake. Big, big mistake. You know, as a mom and as a grandma to 11, you know that I could have warned them, but they're not exactly in the habit of asking parents their opinion. You know, over the last few years, even here in Iowa, we've seen district policies direct staff to conceal 12-year-old children's preferred pronouns from their own parents. We've seen kids taught by trusted adults that they're either oppressors or they're being oppressed. We've seen school books so sexually graphic that, as you heard, a local TV station couldn't air an excerpt in books as I read them out loud on the camera without a warning. That's okay. We're not going to be intimidated, and we're not going to be silenced. And we're not going to be shut down. We're not going to be silenced. So sexually graphic that a local TV station couldn't air an excerpt of one of the books that I read out loud on camera without a warning for its adult viewers. It's wrong, and what I love about Moms for Liberty and all of the parents that are in this fight is you aren't just angry. What I love about Moms for Liberty and the parents that are in this fight is you aren't just angry about it, you're doing something about it. You're fighting for the fundamental principle that parents are the primary decision makers for their children. There was a time when this would have been so obvious that it wouldn't need to be said. And for most people, that truly is still the case. Unfortunately, an extreme and extremely loud minority disagrees. They think that patriotism is racist and pornographic library books are education. They think that patriotism is racist and pornographic library books are education. They believe that the content of our character is less important than the color of our skin. They believe children should be encouraged to pick their gender. And for the parents, well, they're just in the way. Well, maybe they did get that last part right. But I do want to make one thing clear, because I think, truly sometimes it gets lost. The vast majority of our educators, the ones that I talk to and the ones that I know that you encounter every day, are doing great work. They want what we want, and that is the best for our children. It is, again, just a small but loud minority that's trying to change our education system and indoctrinate our children. So when you see educators who are doing what they should and they're doing it well, be sure to thank them, because we need these teachers and we need them now more than ever. But because that small but loud minority want to take over, and they are growing in numbers every day, it truly is time that we take a stand. And that's why I submitted a proposal this week to restore sanity, to make sure our schools remain a place of learning and not indoctrination. It would provide that no instruction regarding gender identity or sexual activities take place between kindergarten through third grade, and I'm willing to work on the legislature to determine what grade that goes to. It requires that schools keep parents informed, and yes, that includes new names and pronouns, which schools can only use when they obtain written parental consent. We're also insisting on transparency in curriculum, books available to students, and guest speakers that are brought to the school. And material that's removed by any Iowa school district would require consent in every district before being shared with children. So, think about it. It's sad that any of this actually needs to be written into law. Unfortunately, that is where we're at. You're familiar with this, but one Linn-Mar school board member didn't even try to hide the contempt. So allow me to quote her directly. "The purpose of public education is not to teach kids what parents want. It's to teach them what society needs them to know. The client is not the parent, but the community." It's almost like a self-parody, but let me tell you, no one is laughing. The message to parents is clear. Sit down, shut up, get in line. I've heard from countless parents who have had enough of the arrogance, and disrespect, who want to say and where their kids go to school. They want to see Iowa's largest monopoly, the teachers' union, broken up. And last week, that's exactly what we did. In one of my proudest moments as a governor, I signed the Students First Act into law, breaking up the union's hold on education, giving every child in Iowa, regardless of zip code or income, access to the school that best fits their individual needs. In short, universal school choice in 3 years. And I want to give a huge shout out to each and every one of you in this room, but a huge shout out to the legislators in both the House and the Senate who made this possible. Thank you. For the first time, we're funding students, not systems. We're rejecting the notion that competition is a zero-sum game. And above all, we're giving parents and families a say in their children's educations. You know, I'm going to say it again. Parents didn't ask for this fight, but they definitely won't back down from it, and neither will I. The last few years have provided so many reasons to be in this fight in the arena for our kids. And maybe for you, it was how they were kept out of school or in masks for no good reason. Maybe it was demonizing our country or an obsession with race in the classroom. Maybe it was realizing that activist school boards and unions think that they know better when it comes to your kids. But whatever got you involved in this movement, I thank you. And please, I guess, my message to you is to stay involved, because parents and freedom still matter in Iowa. And it's because of moms like you. Moms who stayed vigilant, and dads who are driven and who are passionate. Happy warriors who stand tall and will go to the mat for the sake of their kids. So keep fighting, keep pushing, keep standing strong, keep speaking out, because this wave, this movement is still building. And I can't wait to see where it goes. So thank you all. God bless you, and God bless the great state of Iowa. Thank you.
Well, we have a great governor, don't we? She's my hero, for sure. She's all of our heroes. Well, my name is Samantha Fett, and I am the Warren County Chapter Chair, and I am very excited to introduce our next guest, Corey DeAngelis. He has been a freedom fighter for education. You've probably seen him all over. He's been a frequent visitor of Iowa many times, supporting the governor's bill. He's also a senior fellow, American Federation for Children, and or as the liberal media knows him, he's a school choice evangelist. He's Randy Weingarten's biggest enemy. So let me introduce Dr. Corey DeAngelis.
How is everybody doing? Oh, it is a great time to be in Iowa. Iowa now leads the nation in school choice and education freedom for parents. Stay standing, because let's give it up one more time for Governor Kim Reynolds, the education freedom fighter herself. Hey, and by the way, thanks again for that kind introduction. The whole school choice evangelist thing, it has a ring to it, doesn't it? Corey DeAngelis, the school choice evangelist. I mean, it kind of rhymes. I should put it in my Twitter bio. Oh, wait, I already did. And then I got to correct you one last time. Thank you for calling me doctor. You can call me doctor as much as you want, but the truth of the matter is, I'm not a real doctor. I'm more like a Jill Biden doctor. We got more protesters in the room. You're going to be upset about that one? But look, it is a great time to be a school choice advocate because there is a universal school choice revolution unfolding right before our eyes. And it's the red states, including Iowa, that are leading the charge. For far too long in K-12 education, the only special interests that had any influence were the unions representing the employees, the adults in the system. But now, thankfully, the kids have a union of their own, and they're called parents. They are called Moms for Liberty. The parents have been the change agent in the past couple of years. They're pushing back, they've woken up, and they're never going back to sleep. And I'd like to thank Kim Reynolds for being a huge freedom fighter and advocate for school choice, but I got one more person to thank, Randy Weingarten and the teachers' unions for overplaying their hand and awakening a sleeping giant. That sleeping giant, it just happens to be parents who want more of a say in their kids' education. It has become politically advantageous to support parental rights in education. That's why things have changed. Politicians respond to power, not logic. Sometimes logic. The one sitting in the room, thank you so much. But the parents have really been the change agent here. And look, the person who said it best is Vodi Bakum. And he said, we cannot continue to send our children to Caesar for their education and be surprised when they come home as Romans. The good news is parents aren't surprised anymore. They know what's going on. Randy Weingarten and the teachers' unions lobbied to keep the schools closed as long as possible. Thankfully, not so long in great states like Iowa because you have leadership from people like Governor Kim Reynolds. But parents got a glimpse of what was happening in the classroom. They got to see another dimension of school quality that's arguably more important than what can be captured by a standardized test score. And that happens to be whether the school's curriculum is aligned with your values. And I don't care if you're too far left or too far right or what type of curriculum you want in your school. The only solution through freedom as opposed to force is to allow families to choose the education providers that best meet their needs and align with their values. And that provides competition for the public schools to focus on education, not indoctrination. The dominoes are falling. If you see my Twitter today, you know what I'm talking about already. But Arizona was the first state to go all in. Let's give them that. You know, they took like 12 years to do it. They took over a decade to go universal for school choice. Iowa, although it came a year later, had its heaviest foot on its accelerator, doing so in 3 years to expand education freedom to every single family in the state of Iowa, regardless of income, regardless of background, and regardless of the needs of their kids. And they get to choose whatever school works best for them now. Whether that's a public school, if you like your public school, you can keep your public school. But for real this time, unlike with the whole doctor thing. Or you could take the funding to a private school, a charter school, or another option that works for your child. School choice is a rising tide that lifts all boats. This competition should be it should lead to better outcomes for the public schools as well. We don't want to defund the public schools. We don't want to destroy the public schools. We want to make them better. And I believe Moms for Liberty stands behind that as well. So I know Tina told me she's going to tackle me off the stage if I take too long. I haven't even been checking the time, but I'm probably over my 5 minutes right now. So I'm going to do the thing that I've been doing all across the country. The thing is a selfie video, and I'll post it on Twitter if it's loud enough. But it's pretty simple. It doesn't take a lot of education to figure this one out. Even if you went to a school like mine growing up, I needed some more school choice. But look, it's 4 words. And it's going to be a little different because usually I'll go to a state and I'll say it's time to fund students. The crowd says not systems. It's a little different because the time has already come. I've only done this one other time. That was in Arizona. Arizona funds students, not systems. Iowa now funds students, not systems. Here we go. And then I'll get off the stage. Iowa now funds students. One more time. Iowa now funds students. Thank you guys so much.
Hi, I'm Jen Turner, Polk County Chapter Chair. Thank you. I have the pleasure to introduce our next speaker. He is the hardest working man I know. He takes a whole lot of heat, but he always remains joyful. I am lucky to call my friend, Eddie Andrews, to the stage.
What is up, Iowa? I believe we got some good warriors out there in the audience. Somebody loves their children. Okay, you guys need to stop. Hey, Deb. I love you guys. You know, I was gonna joke. Please take this as a joke, but it is amazing. When is the last time that I get to have the governor, the undefeated champion of Iowa, Kim Reynolds, and the undefeated champion of educational advocacy, Corey DeAngelis, as my warm-up act. Oh, this is amazing. Oh, this is so funny. Thank you, guys. It really is an honor. Thank you to Jen Turner. Tina runs a tight ship. We were there last night, and she said 5 minutes, Eddie, not 5:01. Okay, but she did give me a little bit of grace. I just wanted to say thank you for the invitation, and I am so pleased to see so many people who love their children. Just imagine 5 years ago, if you had said that other people might be in charge of my children and I don't have a say, you would have thought, I'm pretty sure you're living in some fantasy land. So today I'm just going to talk about 3 different stories. You guys know my story. I'm just going to give you 3 stories that are important to me. One, my grandfather. If you've been around me, you've heard a grandfather story or 2. My grandfather, imagine this. Born 1 generation from slavery, my grandfather would tell his children, and then me, and our family, I'm child number 7, my granddaddy impression, and it's not grandfather, it's granddaddy. Get that education! If you can't get that education, we don't know what's going to happen, but get that education. If you get that education, nobody can take it away. Education is the ticket. And that's why I am like I am, because my mother, I tell this story too, my mother, I was cleaning up one day and we saw at the old house, and I came across this certificate. I said, wow, Mom, perfect attendance. This is absolutely amazing. And I looked at it and it was her senior year. Because her grandfather, my grandfather, her father had put into her education. And she said, look again, Eddie. And I said, wow. It looks like it was K-12, perfect education, but I know that's impossible. And she said, yeah, K-12. I'm like, didn't you guys go on vacation? Well, not when school was involved. And if you can understand that, that's why education is so important to me, because my grandfather and then my mother put that in me, that education is the key to success. Education is the key to anything. Second of all, second story. Alexander Clark. This is what we call Black History Month, and just as a fact, Alexander Clark was born in another state, but ended up in Muscatine. Where are Muscatine people? I know you guys are okay. So he was a very hard worker, and eventually he became an ambassador. He was a black guy in the 1800s, and friends with Frederick Douglass. And you think that this education fight just started 2 years ago in COVID? No, it's been going on for a long time. So he petitions the court, he petitions his school board because he says, look, I want my child to go to the school that is going to best prepare Susan Clark for success. Simple request. But in the 1860s, 1850s, that was not the case. But Iowa led the way and said, you know what? If you need to get your child educated and you are a citizen, we believe in the state of Iowa that education is so critical to your success that 86 years before Brown versus Board of Education opened up the educational access to all people of color across the state, Iowa had already done it. Iowa. And that is all we are asking, and yes, demanding, that we have the ability to educate our children in the best way at the best school that is appropriate for my child's success, to prepare my boy, my girl, your child for success. And that's all school choice and parental choice is about. Now, how did we get here? I have one other story. And trust me, I can go all night, because we had a blast the other night talking stories. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, did I not know what I was getting into when I ran for office 3 years ago. This was not on the radar screen. But I was reminded that there was I'm going to just tell a little bit, but I was reminded there was a minister who had called me before, on an unlisted number, never called me before. He lives in another state, has a large church, has no reason to call this guy, and called me up and said, Eddie, you're about to go into a spiritual battle. Now, granted, I had not told my wife, I had not told my children, I had not told my best friend. I was praying about running for office. And this guy from another state calls me and says, Eddie, you're about to go into the spiritual battle, and tells me all the things that were about to happen before they happened. You can believe that or not. I have no reason to lie. And everything that he said came true. There's more stuff that I'll tell you later. That wasn't even the story. But, yeah, I know. Thank you, Brooke. Last one. When we got here, I heard from lots of stories, lots of parents. One of them was a parent of a 5-year-old child. Think about 5-year-old children. Her daughter was, and she told me to tell this anonymously, of course, and I'm not saying what district, da-da-da-da. She says, my daughter, I checked out her curriculum. We're talking 5 years old. And she said, well, here's the deal, Eddie. I checked out the video, one of the videos in the curriculum, and she said, well, this was absolutely inappropriate for my child. And so she said, it was about a babysitter, or one of the scenes was about a babysitter, and the babysitter said, well, I'd like to babysit this time, but this time, and then it went into graphic detail, the babysitter said, well, this time they're going to go put their hands down their pants. And then they were going to do this. And then they're going to do this. And they are showing this for 5-year-olds in kindergarten class. Parents said, no way, not my child, I'm opting out. Talked to the teacher, went up to the administrator. A week or two later, the teacher decided they know better than the parent, showed it to the daughter anyway. This went on for another time, another similar incident, and at one point she said, look, this is my child, this is not gonna happen, I'm pulling my child out. That is why we passed the Students First Act to give parents options. So no matter what your zip code is, no matter what your income level, you now have an option. It's all about freedom and options. Like my granddaddy said, to get that education that you need to prepare yourself for success. Last thing I'm going to say as I'm on my way out, it gets to the heart of the matter that we began with. Who's in charge of your child? Thank you. Since the dawn of mankind, parents have been in charge of the education and the moral training of their children. And that's not going to change here in Iowa. You, the parent, have the authority to make the best decision for your child in education, and I think I'm way over my 5 minutes, so God bless you guys. Keep living strong. Bless.
That is a very tough act to follow. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bridget Ziegler. I am with the Leadership Institute and a long friend of Tina Deskovich. Can we please give Moms for Liberty one more time? I yield from the free state of Florida, but I have to tell you, I have to give Iowa a major shout out. Not only are they incredibly friendly, but leading the way in the education freedom aspect from the brave and bold leadership that we're going to hear from the legislators. So please give yourselves a round of applause. I know that I am between you and the panel here, and I think that this is the best part, to hear from everyone and answer questions. Briefly share that Leadership Institute has been training conservatives since 1979. I'm the National Director of School Board Programs. I'm also a school board member in Sarasota County, Florida. I am, like many, never expected to be on this journey. I'm a mother of 3 young children, 3, 6, and 9. When I was first elected in 2014, I was a champion for school choice and parental empowerment. And apparently it's something that's a 4-letter word when you're running for school board for the unions. And so they took it to task to do everything to keep us from being elected, but we prevailed 2 times over and recently with a re-election. But the one part that I think is really important is we're talking about choice. And when you think about school boards and you wonder, how did we get here? There's a reason that across the country, even small county, small city, big district, or small district, the school boards are acting many times the exact same way, and it's something called the National School Boards Association. And there is only one place up until now that ultimately has been the place that has trained all of the school board members across the country, and it's that their state chapter of the School Board Association. And there has been no other choice, and that is where we find ourselves succumbing to groupthink, going to our public servants that are not really there serving our public. They have been protecting the system and not the students. And now that time has changed. Well, we see the grassroots army mobilizing, and thank the Lord for all of you brave women and your husbands and families for speaking up and taking control and bringing back the control when it comes to parental rights. But in addition to that, something that's near and dear to my heart is making sure that all of that hard work is for naught, and making sure that when you have an elected school board member, it is daunting. I've been there, and that they know that they can go to somewhere that can teach them how to be the effective school board member that they campaign to be, so they can hold the line and move things forward, protect parental rights, ensure we're focusing on our actual academics and respecting the roles of the family. So I'm very proud to say that Leadership Institute is training newly elected school board members We're training activists, candidates, and everything we can do to hold the line so there are choices so that we will end the indoctrination and focus on education and protect parental sovereignty and separation between child and state. So I hope that you will learn more about us, and I will kick it over to Tina Deskovich, and thank you so much.
Thanks, Bridget. The work that they are doing to train school board members is vital. Tomorrow, Bridget, did you mention the training tomorrow? Tomorrow at the Des Moines Hilton downtown, you can go to momsforliberty.org/townhall-IA for Iowa and register still for tomorrow's class that she is teaching from 9 to 12. Now we are going to move on to the parents part of this, the panel. We're going to invite our legislators up that have been invited to be on the panel. Please come up and just pick a seat. There's plenty to choose from. They're going to introduce themselves when they get up here. I do want to lay some ground rules, which it sounds like I should have laid from the very beginning. I didn't think it was going to get rowdy until the public was going to come up and ask comments. I expected some rowdiness, but maybe all of the rowdy people are gone already. But yeah, what happened to that? Anyway, what happened to Iowa Nice?
I'm going to sit in one to moderate.
Is that going to be in the way?
We're going to move it in a second.
As I was going to say, as some of the ground rules, we will remove you if you get out of control. But I don't think I need to say that. I'm not sure how many people that is that we've had to remove so far. Look, we want to hear from you. Our minds are open. I know that as a society, and not just here in Iowa, but across the country, everybody is shut down and feels like this is their corner and that corner. We really want to open the conversation. Ask the hard questions. If you're concerned about your kids, you don't like what's going on, ask the hard questions. Everyone on this panel has agreed to open themselves up tonight to the public to ask the hard questions, but don't act a fool. Don't scream and yell and carry on. How is that going to get us anywhere? Okay, I'm going to, sir, if you will start, I'm going to move this podium. I'm going to try. You don't have to, I know, it's supposed to be on wheels. I'm supposed to unplug one thing and move it off. You guys start introducing yourselves. Take 2 to 3 minutes. Introduce yourself, say a few things, and then we'll start the discussion. Thank you. You're supposed to hold it down for 3 seconds.
Need help with that?
Testing. All right. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Holt. I'm the state representative for District 12. I'm serving my 5th term. I'm chair of the Judiciary. I will tell you that I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps. I spent 5 years as a drill instructor. I'm often accused, folks, of not smiling enough, so I want you to understand that this is my happy face. So I just want to share something with you. I loved when I came in, I saw the poster that said we do not co-parent with the government. So I want to share something with you that's called, it's Excerpts from Education as a Battlefield by Larry P. Arnn, who's the president of Hillsdale College. I don't know if you've read this, but I just want to share a little bit about what he said because I think it frames the discussion tonight. Public education is as old as our nation, but only lately has it adopted the purpose of supplanting the family and controlling parents. One can look in history or in literature to see the danger of where the idea of supplanting the family might lead. Study the education practices that existed in the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany, and that exist today in communist China, or read the terrifying account in Orwell's 1984. They tell us that children, by distorting their natural desire to grow up and end their dependence, can be recruited for the purposes of despotic regimes, even to the extent of denouncing their parents to the state. We do not yet have this in America, but we do have children being turned against their country by being indoctrinated to look on its past, of which all parents, of course, are in some way a part, as a shameful time of irredeemable injustice. We also increasingly have children being encouraged to speak of their sexual proclivities at an age when they can hardly think of them. Who owns the child then? The choice is between the parents who have taken the trouble to have and raise the child, and who in almost all cases will give their lives to support the child as long as it takes and longer, or the educational bureaucracy, which is more likely than a parent to look upon the child as an asset in a social engineering project to rearrange government and society. I have said and written many times that the political contest between parents and people who make an independent living on the one hand and the administrative state and all its mighty forces on the other is the key political contest of our time. Today that seems truer than ever. The lines are clearly formed. I did not serve 20 years in the Marine Corps to watch my country be destroyed and our children indoctrinated to hate their country, and I did not serve and love my country to listen and hear that in the Ames Community School District, second graders are told they can be a boy, a girl, both, neither, or something else. That is child abuse, and we have a lot. And I just want to tell you, in case you haven't noticed, we got a lot of legislation moving in the House, and I'm sure in the Senate, to deal with these issues, and it's going to happen this session. So thank you for being here.
Hello? Oh, yay, it works. Now we figured out how to use the microphones. I'm State Representative Brooke Bowden, and I represent Warren County, Marion County. I don't have anything prepared because that's just who I am. I'm like, let's go, let's do this. So actually I was on the phone with two people on the way here, and it kind of cut into my time of preparation. But let me tell you why I decided to serve in the legislature. Because I was a mom. Legitimately. My daughter got sick with Lyme disease, and I couldn't get her treated past 30 days, and nobody up there would run a bill. So as a mom, I wrote legislation. I went to both sides, the House, both chambers, and I knocked on doors, and I talked to people until we got that legislation passed, and it lit a fire in me that the people matter, and the moms matter, and they need to start listening to us. And so as a mom, I decided, you know, I'm no more special than anybody else in this room. I put my pants on one leg at a time too. But the great thing about our nation is that we have a citizen legislature. And we come and we hear from the people, and we represent our 33,000, or maybe it's increased now. And we listen. And it's a tidal wave of parents, a complete tidal wave. When they say you don't know what you're getting into when you do this, they absolutely mean that. And none of us really imagined what we're living in right now. We expect to deal with property taxes and where you're going to put your septic tank. But never did we think that we were going to have to tell parents and teachers tell parents that they can't touch your kids. They can't tell them, no, you're not going to tell your parents that. We're going to keep that a secret. That's just going to be a secret between us. And I don't care what the subject matter is. It doesn't matter to me. Take the subject matter out of the conversation. You're not keeping secrets. We're the parents. Those are our children. You have a job because of my child and my tax dollars. And so we're very blessed that we have a governor that's willing to work and listen to all of us, that she's willing to stand behind the legislature. You know, we can pass bills all day long, but it's got to come off her desk. And what's really awesome is that in my district, Moms for Liberty started in a living room that I helped start. And those parents took off like fire. They joined this group that was already active in Des Moines, and they have rallied for the children. And that is what, first of all, makes good legislation. And it's not us. We do what the people's will is. We listen. So keep knocking on doors, keep coming up to the legislature, keep talking to everybody, make your voices heard, don't stop, because you matter.
Thank you so much for Moms for Liberty for putting this on, and I want to thank my fellow legislators. I couldn't pick a better time in history to serve than right now. Just so many memories and so much good policy that we pass. And the reason I ran for office was school choice. As 1992, my mother became a mama bear. She found some inappropriate material in my sister's human growth and development curriculum, and my family had the option. They decided, they fought the school board for a little bit, and when I was 6 years old, I remember how my mom was treated by that school board. And it was so disrespectful. No taxpayer should ever be treated that way. And so instead of fighting any harder, they decided to send me to a private school, which is the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the best time of my life. And it's where I first heard the gospel, and I felt so loved by every single teacher. My sister passed away a couple years after I started attending that school, and that school treated me like family when my family was falling apart. And as an adult, I decided to serve at that same private school and teach to the junior high Bible class there. It was at that time that I saw an inner city child, one of my first Bible students, who had a wealthy donor that found him and gave him an opportunity to go to that school. And I'll never forget seeing that child's life get transformed within 1 year. The power of when you put a child into the right educational environment, there's no better thing, absolutely no better thing. But here in the state of Iowa, prior to now, we just funded and invested in one system. And it's, to me, a total disrespect to the taxpayer. Just before running, I had a homeschool family that I go to church with. They decided to send one of their 5 children to their small local rural public school. And they never dreamt that they would run into some weird indoctrination stuff. And their 7th grade social studies teacher started telling their boy that he was not old enough to know his gender. So they ended up pulling him out and homeschooling. And as Christian conservatives, we're taught to be slow to speak and slow to anger. And I told that family, you deserve better. You deserve better for your tax dollars. So thank you, legislators, for running. It's been an honor to serve with you this year, and I can't wait to hear what's on your mind.
Thank you. If I could stop you for 1 second. Yeah. The most important thing is you say your name, so everyone knows who you are.
Senator Jesse Green. I serve the Boone area.
Just want to make sure everybody in the audience knows who you are. So, sir, if you could start with that.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, my name is Dan Gelbach. I'm a state representative, newly elected from the Dallas County Urbandale area, which was, and because Eddie didn't want to move 6 blocks, I get Grimes too in Polk County, so thanks, Eddie. But a lot of you know my story, but I just want to say, it's been a blessing. I'm a freshman legislator. I just want to point out that all 24 freshmen, who many of you are in the room tonight, all voted for the Student First Act. And that would not have happened without the hard work of everyone in this room and the governor, too, which I want to give a big thank you to. A lot of you know my story on the Milwaukee School Board. I ran in 2019. I had a finance background. They had gone through an audit and a couple superintendents, and I thought I could lend my voice to that board. And a little did I know when I got a little peek behind the curtain what I'd really find. And so, you know, God has crazy timing. We lost an election a year ago, unfortunately, and Jen Turner, Moms for Liberty, Polk County, called up my wife and said, hey, there's spots at Des Moines Christian. So I have a 15-year-old daughter, freshman, and a 6th grader this year, and we're going to Des Moines Christian because they're preaching. Thank you. It's a great school. It turns out that all the diversity, equity, inclusion they talk about at the public school doesn't include diversity of opinion and thought, and doesn't include biblical worldviews and values that my family want. So we found a better choice for our kids, and because of the Students First Act, you can all have that opportunity, no matter where you live or what your income is. So thank you for being in the fight. Thank you for being here tonight, and I look forward to working with you in the future, too. Thank you again.
I'm State Senator Sandy Salmon. Okay. I thank you for inviting me to speak at this gathering. I feel honored to be asked to speak. This is just a bunch of liberty-loving parents. And I tell you, we need way more like you to speak up in defense of our constitutional rights and liberties. Yeah. I'm a wife and a mother and a grandmother, and I love God, my family, my state, and my nation. And I feel very blessed to call Iowa and America my home. That's who I am. My husband was here tonight. He was a little reluctant to come. What are you doing? Where are you going that night? But he is here with me tonight, sitting there on the second row there, my husband, Matt. And he's retired from the Iowa Army National Guard. So my background, I was raised on a farm. I served in the Marine Corps. Yeah. And I homeschooled our 3 sons all the way through high school. After we graduated them, I was elected to the State House and served for 10 years. And then this past November, I was elected to the State Senate. And I represent now Senate District 29, which is up in northeast Iowa, Waverly, Charles City, New Hampton, Parkersburg, and Allison areas. So I focused my time in the legislature fighting to protect life and our constitutional rights and liberties. And this year, I'm working on legislation to get rid of sexually explicit materials in education. You know it's bad when the only place you're legally allowed to give porn to a child is in school. Yeah. Porn and child and school don't even belong in the same sentence. So it's time to take out the trash at school. I'm also working on holding schools accountable for teaching critical race theory ideas. This is nothing more than racism, division, and Marxism being indoctrinated into our kids. The process of having the bureaucrats enforce our law isn't working, and we need parent-driven enforcement. I'm also working on getting LGBT ideology out of the school and making schools accountable to the parents for what they're teaching and promoting. all of this is contrary to many parents, if not the majority of parents' religious and political beliefs. This amounts to nothing more than new religions, and they have no place in the school. The delivery vehicle for all of this now is what's called transformative SEL, transformative social emotional learning. We need to return to what SEL was originally meant to be, learning to respect each other, manage emotions, treat others according to the golden rule, set and achieve goals, make sound decisions, and take responsibility for your actions. Yeah. These are universal and common goals shared by all families for their children. Schools should be coming alongside parents and reinforce what is taught at home. So, please contact your legislators and speak up in support of this legislation. We need your voices. Legislators are like children that we behave when we're being watched. Rest assured, I will keep fighting for the constitutional rights and liberties we love as Americans. Thank you for being by my side, and I need you by my side, and I will be by your side. Thank you so much. God bless you.
I wouldn't want to have to go after her.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Shipley. I serve Iowa House District 87, so that'd be a southeast area of the state, Fairfield, Mount Pleasant, Van Buren County. I guess first and foremost, it really is a blessing to be here. I mean, just the fact that we have Moms for Liberty and Leadership Institute supporting, uplifting the voices of parents, and that we could just gather here in this room. I mean, it really is a blessing that citizens can come together, talk about what's actually happening in our communities, and work together to solve it. This is a fundamental exercise and truly is important. And there are a lot of people in the world that don't have this blessing of liberty that we have. So again, it just really is thankful to God and all the wonderful people, each and every one of you, for being here tonight and using your voices. A lot of wonderful things have been said already. I'm really happy we can be joyful and celebrate tonight. I think that is definitely the attitude we need. We need to be fun-loving. We need to be proactively creating the healthiest, happiest environment for our children. But unfortunately, I mean, the issues are really, really sad. And I know we're doing our best to get to the root of these things, but that's been one of the challenges on the campaign trails, how to really find the right words of what's going on. How do we describe to the public the deterioration of the family, right? That it really is a blessing to have a mother and father these days that are able to support a child and pay attention to their education. A lot of these problems are because we neglected our responsibility slowly but surely over many decades. You know, for instance, the sex ed conversation was too hard and parents didn't have time to have an awkward or potentially difficult conversation with their kids. So they gave it to the school district and thought they could do a good job. Sadly, we're finding out that they have not been doing a good job educating children on very, very basic subjects. And during the pandemic, a lot of people trusted the school district, and unfortunately, we know how that turned out. Thankfully, we live in a state that's not aggressively attacking children like in other states where they were trying to impose vaccine mandates and additional measures like that. I mean, really, how else do you describe it but a war on children and children's health? And I think that's been the biggest thing. So this is my third term. I first came in 2019, and I remember just touring the school district in my community, just how evident it was, the behavioral disorders, the teachers complaining about, I'm not an educator anymore, I'm a babysitter, I'm a behavioral health counselor. And back in 2019, we heard about how the one behavioral student would force all the other kids to leave, and that we were really, I mean, how else, just boiling it down to the lowest common denominator where the whole system is ground to a halt because I don't know how else to say it, but there's a lack of love in society, and there are a lot of children that unfortunately, and this is where we have to acknowledge where the other side is coming from, that there are children in the communities, in my community, where they're getting that hat and gloves from the school district, or their meal, their nutrition from the school. So these are very, very serious problems, and how do we get to the root of all these things? I think one of the things that came up in our campaign is you go back to 1962 when the Supreme Court took prayer out of the schools. Now, God willing, we have a Supreme Court now that is willing to revisit decades-old precedents, but you know, we need to have states that can fight for it. And it was going on to the comments that we opened up tonight with, the importance of having God and some sort of natural hierarchy that we can submit and belong to. So it really stands to reason. How else do we describe it? We've taken away truth, and there's been a flood of mental illness. And let's be really honest about what we're seeing. And you could argue this in a lot of different ways, but you have government institutions, these schools, they are enabling and assisting in the formation of mental illness. Now, it's pretty bad because they're calling it health, and the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Medical Association and, you know, the Psychiatrists Association that says that toxic masculinity is now an illness now. So we're pretty far down the slope, and thank God it's now clearly evident where we can recognize these patterns and have legislators and elected officials help people make a conscious choice for the health and the happiness of their children, which obviously thank God for the parents that are willing to take that responsibility, because as adults, I think our primary responsibility always is the health and happiness of our children and prioritizing that, and it's very clear that some people have other priorities. So thank God for the opportunity to tell these folks to their face exactly what they're doing to our kids. We've had some great committee meetings. But yeah, we all have to work together on this, and we have a lot of work to do, so just thank God for the celebration and the joy that we have tonight and undertaking this very serious work that we're all doing together. So thank you guys for the opportunity. It really is an honor to be here with so many great public servants and obviously the parents driving this. So.
My name is Helena Hayes, and I am from the Thanks, guys. I'm actually one of the very new faces up here, along with Galback. I'm from Oskaloosa area, and part of my district is all of Keokuk County and part of Jefferson that he didn't take over. So Mahaska County, Keokuk, Jefferson. And my story began, I won't take very long to say this, but I do want to say this because it began from a single incident, and a lot of you have heard about this, but it was the Pella Pool incident, where we had a 15-year-old girl go topless because she identifies as a boy. And because the pool owns the city owns the pool, you can imagine the next city council meeting was quite packed. And after that meeting, they said they wouldn't take any further action. And that was because of the Civil Rights Code, because they feared a lawsuit. At least that's what we were told. And so we came to the State House, just a bunch of moms and dads and grandparents, and we didn't feel very heard up there last year. So that incident occurred in June of 2021. And I'm like a lot of people, maybe not in here, because you guys are engaged now. You are paying attention. But I was one of those moms, like so many of them that probably aren't here, that was doing my own thing. I'm a 20-year homeschooler, so, you know, I was concerned about teaching and what's for supper and laundry and all that kind of stuff that we just have to do on a day-to-day basis. I'm not a politician, and that incident really woke me up to the fact that the voices weren't being heard. Oops, excuse me, am I going in and out? Testing, okay. The voices on the local level and a state level weren't being heard, including our own. So we did do we got an organization together, we called it Protect My Innocence. And one thing I've noticed so far, don't worry, I'm gonna get to you guys, hold on, I'm gonna embarrass you. I'm 4 weeks into this, okay? I've been at the Capitol 4 weeks. And one thing I've noticed is that, unfortunately, the voices aren't getting heard, but now that, I actually just forgot what I was going to say. Don't you hate that? I'll think of it and I'll come back to it. But the Protect My Innocence group is here tonight, and I did want to take a moment. Oh, that's what I was going to say. About them was that you see us up here. We are in front of you, but what you don't see are those behind the scenes that have worked for years and sometimes decades on school choice, on protecting children, on defending our Constitution, and you don't see the Protect My Innocence group. So I'm going to ask them to just stand up for a second and wave, and please give them a round of applause, because these guys don't get to be up here, but they are super dedicated. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. They didn't even tell me they were going to be here. So the other thing I want to say, too, is I've had a couple of hours of conversation yesterday and today. Yesterday was the Capitol Day for One Iowa, which is Iowa's largest LGBT organization. They had a rally there, and I attended the rally. I wanted to hear what they had to say, and it was, yeah, I listened very carefully. And of course, then the people from my area, from Oskaloosa and Eddyville, they got to come out, they come upstairs, and they called us out of chamber, and I got to visit with them for quite a while. And what really, and this also occurred in a conversation I had, an hour-and-a-half call I had with another LGBT supporter from my area. They were really, really taken back and surprised that I would talk to them and talk to them for so long and just listen to them. And that kind of disappointed me, because what happened here, this isn't how we solve this issue. You know, yelling at a town hall isn't fixing anything. And so we need to continue to have that conversation. And schools, unfortunately, are reaping some of the consequences to what the LGBT communities and things like that are putting out there, because the parents now have distrust. You guys don't trust the schools. And that's a shame, because once upon a time, there was a lot of trust between parents and teachers and administrators, and that has been eroded. And I've noticed in the conversations I've had, that needs to be put back in there, that needs to be rebuilt. But it can't be when you've got the undermining occurring of parents, and that's a shame. So Representative Holt had a great quote that he shared with you, and I just want to leave you with this before we turn it over. We want you guys to get to the microphone. This is supposed to be asking questions, and we want to do that. There are still too many empty seats in here, okay? This is a great crowd, but there are still too many empty seats in here, because there still needs to be more voices and parents and people taking a stand. So here's my quote that I want to make sure you remember tonight. When it comes to issues of morality, let me make sure I don't get this wrong here. I'm going to grab my phone. This is a quote by Theodore Roosevelt, and I'm sure some of you have heard it here. All right, where's it at here? I'm sorry to take your time.
It is A-okay. Can someone tell me what time it is?
Yeah, what time is it?
Okay. So while you're looking for your quote, I'm going to give out some instructions. We were going to have some discussion as a panel. I had a few questions for you, but I think with the time constraints, I am going to open it up. I'm going to open it up directly to you all to start asking questions. Please ask a question. I've done enough of these now that some people like to get up and pontificate, and we won't get to enough people if you go up to the microphone and pontificate. So ask your question, and then for you all, we're not going to go down the line since it's such a large panel and have everybody answer every question. If you feel like inspired or you feel like this is a topic you're real, it's important to you, kind of rotate around, take some turns. We're all professionals here. I mean, I know two are brand new, but you guys can do it too. So we're going to hear the quote, and then we'll start with our first question.
Awesome,
Thanks.
and we got somebody lined up. Listen to this. When a great moral issue is involved, neutrality does not serve righteousness. For to be neutral between right and wrong is to serve wrong. That's why these seats need to be filled up. So I'm glad you're here, guys. Thank you for taking your Thursday night to be here. Let's get to some questions.
Sure. Thanks everybody for coming out. I love that Governor Reynolds opened up with that quote from the Linn-Mar school board member. Just to summarize, it says, the goal of public education is to teach kids what society needs them to know. I'm running for Linn-Mar school board because we don't have time for that, so we're gonna get all that nonsense out of there. My name is Nick Hall, by the way. The reason I bring that up is I need your help rooting this kind of stuff out, and I think you're doing a great job with the educational savings accounts. As I'm running for school board in Linn-Mar, I'm having trouble articulating what's going on with the money. Parents are asking me, and concerned citizens are wondering, is the pot of money that's funding ESAs going to take away from the pot of money that funds schools? So you guys are all smarter than me. I need your help articulating an answer for that in a few seconds. So thanks so much, guys.
That's a short one.
No. In the 4 years that ESAs are fully funded, it's going to cost about $1 billion. During that same period, we're going to spend over $13 billion with the B on public education. It is not taking away from public education. We have in 4 years, 6 years from now, we're going to have almost $2 billion surplus in our bank account, and we're going to have $2 or $3 billion in our taxpayer relief fund, because in Iowa, Republicans balance budgets and take care of how we spend our money. So it is not.
So, well, just to give another color on that, so the leftists feel very entitled. So if they see $100 or $1 million or whatever going to somewhere else, they do view that as money that could have gone to them. So if you feel like you're entitled to everything, that is how they get that kind of attitude or say that.
I'll just add, every student's worth the same amount of money, no matter what school they go to. They're not losing any public money. And it's not public money, it's your money. It's taxpayer money.
Hello, Helena and Jeff. They're from my area. My biggest question, I want to commend Senator Salmon for bringing SB 91 to the forefront. I think it would do a big service to Iowa families to know that their schools couldn't be shut down because of some perceived emergency. I would ask all of you up here to help push that through in the House too. We need to make sure that while we have a good governor, that might not always be the case, and we need to thank you. Like I said, I just wanted to commend Senator Salmon. Thank you.
It is currently Iowa law, though, that there is in-person instruction. So that is one of the things Iowa was first in the nation on, was saying that every student has a right to a classroom. So there have been some improvements made, but yes, there's more work to do exploring that.
Hi, my name is Kathleen, and I have 3 kids. 2 have already graduated out of the Des Moines public school system, and I have 1 who's in Hoover right now, which is in this school district right here. I do love my public school, and I thank you so much that this is not about closing down our public schools by any means. We want to make them better, and so that's what I'm so excited about. The question I have for you is, I read just this last tweet, 2 weeks ago, it says here, Minnesota will soon be making teachers endorse child mutilation to get a license. That is on January 10th in the Federalist, okay? So it's a conservative location. If you know, Illinois also is very much making their teachers have to make to get endorsed as a teacher, they are having to make statements that they will do woke and do, you know what I'm talking about. What are we doing in Iowa to protect ourselves from these things that are happening, to protect our teachers? I want to protect our teachers, that our teachers can still work and that they do not have to make statements to endorse, to even get a license, you know, to do those things. Thank you.
I'll take that because I'm working on some legislation to prevent teachers from having to make statements in order to, a statement of loyalty to an ideology in order to get a job. I don't know when that'll come out, but that is something I've been working on. So.
I would also comment, Representative Schuyler Wheeler in the Education Committee in the House is fired up. We're working on a lot of reforms to the Board of Educational Examiners. No matter how many laws we pass, if the Board of Education refuses to enforce the law and they circle the wagons, we're not getting anywhere. We want to put a lot of parents on the Board of Education, the Board of Educational Examiners, and we're going to reform that system.
There's one other thing to this. So when we've been hearing testimony, and even when Linn-Mar policy came out, the school districts are claiming that the Iowa Civil Rights Act, specifically gender identity as a protected class in education, is compelling them to accommodate these students in this way. So, and on the federal level, there was a decision on what they call Title IX, where they would include gender identity protections under biological sex, and basically that would be a federal mandate to enforce this kind of framework on every school in Iowa. So there are some very important things in the realm of civil rights that do need to get hammered out. I think ultimately where we need to go is to divorce Iowa from the federal government in this area. The downside of that is the federal government does supply a good amount of money for the school nutrition program. But the other side of that is the food they're feeding the kids is very restrictive in fat and protein. Therefore, that's one of the reasons why kids are kind of weak and soft and, you know, all that, because they're not actually eating real food. So anyway, this is a big thing where we need to really have these town halls and decide what direction we want to take a state and what are we not willing to tolerate in our classrooms and what truly is a civil right, and mental illness should not be accommodated as a civil right. So that is something we need to work on.
All right, well, thank you all for coming. My name is Kyle. I'm originally from Illinois, the Chicagoland area. I'm an Iowan by choice. So if anyone, Illinois is losing population, so if you don't like their leadership, they're always taking applications for new residents. But I came to Iowa to study at the University of Iowa, and we've heard a lot about K-12 Education Day, which is obviously very important, and I got my start rallying at school boards in the Chicagoland area. But I do want to talk about universities as well, because they're very important. We have 3 public universities funded by Iowa taxpayers, but all 3 of them seem to be tools of the Democratic Party in Iowa. DEI, CRT, stuff that we all complain about is commonplace at all these universities. MSNBC host Joy Reid is going to get a check written by Iowa taxpayers to come speak to our students, and it seems like conservative students are constantly attacked on the campus, and I've experienced that personally myself. If you haven't seen, Governor Ron DeSantis has released higher education reform in the state of Florida, and he's going to ban taxpayer funding for DEI and CRT and all that stuff, and he's taking a stand in universities and higher education that are funded by taxpayers in the state of Florida. So I'm wondering if you guys have any plans to introduce higher education reform in the state of Iowa for Iowa taxpayers.
That isn't something I'm working on too. I found a bill dealing with the DEI groups in the administration at the Regent universities. So that is, you're correct, that is something that does need to be worked on, yeah.
In the House, we've got a bill moving that's going to require the region. There's a lot of these woke terminology showing up in all of the, engineering, and it doesn't matter, dental school, everything else. We're hearing from all kinds of students that they're they're going to a dental school or whatever, and all of a sudden they're getting indoctrinated. So we've got a bill that's going to require the Regent universities to come to us and define all of these terms like compulsory heterosexuality. We would love to know how that term is applying in engineering or wherever they're using it. And we've just got a lot of bills moving and a lot of work to do in all those areas.
I also know Education Approps is looking at dollar amounts spent at Regent universities on some of these, woke teacher, there's the administration that just kind of goes like this, and they're all getting paid lots and lots of money, and just kind of trying to find out, asking them, what is exactly your job? Do we need 12 people to do it? Those kind of things.
And lastly, I'll add, we have some alternate teacher license pathways that we're funding too and putting in place, so you don't have to go to the Regent universities to be a teacher in Iowa, and there's some other pathways to do that.
Okay. Hi, my name is Michelle, and I have a real quick question for you, and it might not even be a question. It could just be a request. There's something I haven't heard anybody mention tonight. That's the American Library Association. Are you all discussing it? Because to me, that's kind of the core. What educational institution you're at and public libraries, they're all tied in with the American Library Association. Is there any talk about disbanding it statewide?
This is something we're definitely aware of, that the obscene literature is getting into the schools because they're ordering it from these catalogs. I don't exactly know what group is actually Iowa-based, so this might be something that's a little bit above kind of our pay grade. But yeah, I mean, and it kind of blows my mind. I'll be politically correct here and keep this short, but back when I was in college, this came to my mind like a month ago when I realized that the guy that organized the communism club on campus worked at the university library. So yeah, there's been an overlap in there for a long time, and I'm glad and that's I think the thing is trying to find where are these things coming from. That's fine. Yep. But you get it.
Oh, there. Yeah. You get it. Oh, okay. Hi.
There's some back-end deals going on up here. You guys are making them work.
We are most certainly addressing that because we have conversations all the time around the coffee pot or in the bathroom, I don't know, all over the place at the Capitol. And we are certainly, and Michelle, thank you for that, very keenly aware of that. There's also a push to require that librarians be educated in a certain way. And my own sister is a librarian at a public school, and she doesn't even have a teacher endorsement. And I do not believe, I disagree with any legislation right now that's being pushed that librarians have to have this special degree that is oftentimes the vehicle they use to, indoctrinate. So yes, we'll get that.
I'm trying to stay out of the discussion because I'm not an expert on Iowa education, but I do know a lot about what's going on in Florida. And with the bill that passed last session in Florida, our Department of Education, it was a transparency bill and working with some of the literature problems in the libraries. And so what the Department of Education in Florida did as a result of that bill is they put together a team, and they actually appointed 3 Moms for Liberty members on their statewide team, and they worked on training for the public school librarians. And in that, they worked on defining pornography, defining all of the terms. The training was put out, I think, the 15th of January, and it's really effective. It upset a lot of people, but defining pornography for public schools should not upset anyone.
So we're talking about books. And since we're on the subject of books, I'm Chair of Government Oversight, and on Monday evening at 5 p.m., we will be having conversations about the books. We are calling in some great moms that are in this room, and we're going to go through what this book oversight does and what educational value these books have. We will then return a conversation with the librarians and the administrators to find out their portion of the conversation, because There's a process in place, and we need to understand it, and we need to make sure that our children aren't being exposed to pornography.
Hi, my name is Emily Peterson. I'm a mom of 4, and my youngest daughter has special needs. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for passing this bill. As of today, she was just accepted in the school of her choice, and until then, it was never possible. So God bless each and every one of you for that. Second, I want to ask, what is being done for those special needs students? Because before now, she was removed from a Christian school because they could not accommodate for her needs in her IEP. So that's my first question through this bill. And then the second one is, when does that website go live so I can make sure that we can get all this started? Because I know that the principals, they're very aware of your bill passage and they want to accommodate, but they don't know when that website goes live yet to sign up.
The Department of Ed already has their landing page going, so if you go there, you will find it. It's in its infancy still, because a lot of those policies and things are in progress. You know, regarding your special ed question, so you know, that has been a concern that many of us have heard, and one of the reasons why a lot of people fought against school choice was because private schools don't have to accept everybody and they can turn away. But I really appreciated hearing very personal stories from Pella Christian that definitely took on special needs. It's from one family of 10 children, a lot of adopted children with special needs. They had 6 of them go through. So I know personally that any private school, they draw down funding from the federal funds to meet the needs of those students, and as long as they have access to that, and they've always had access to that, they've worked already really hard to do that. So I know in my experience and in my conversations with people in Pella and Oskaloosa, that has never been a problem. So can you guys address her question a little bit more?
I was just going to say, I think that, you know, part of the reason maybe some private schools don't take special ed children is because they don't have the resources, and this bill is going to give them a lot more resources. And so I'm hopeful that alone is going to allow them to take a lot more special needs children than there currently are. If you look at data from other states where there's school choice programs, there are a lot of special needs kids in the private schools.
I'll just add, you guys know me, I'm a math guy and numbers guy, so come and talk about numbers. But right now there's a special weightings, level 1, 2, and 3 for special needs, IEPs. If all the money would follow the kid to the private school, they would have more flexibility and more options to meet the needs of all students. So this is a good starting point. Students First Act is a good starting point, but we can have that conversation further about sending all the money to the private school, especially for special needs kids. Thank you.
Just to let you know, we've got about 15 more minutes. We want to be respectful of everybody's time. Everybody's got to get home to their kids. These guys have worked long days. You guys have had long days. So we will, if you're in line, we'll finish up the people that are in line, but then we're going to cut off the questions after that. Thanks.
I just wanted to thank everyone for what they did to pass the Students First Act. My mom is actually a teacher. She teaches at Fort Madison, but a student stood up in her class, started talking about George Floyd. She said, "We're not going to talk about this," and she was put on administrative leave 2 days ago. So there are a lot of stuff about our school systems that need to improve, actually, but thank God for the school union that actually did back her. But one thing that I wanted to highlight was that the Students First Act, and I campaigned for this for a year and a half with an organization to get it passed, is that Division 3 of the bill took funding, gave the option for funding to go away from talented and gifted students, which are your best and brightest students in Iowa, and who need a little bit of challenge to keep on learning. And they gave it the option to be able to be negotiated for the base teacher salaries when the school boards and school unions are negotiating. So now talented and gifted funding is up for grabs, basically. I don't know if there's a way to close that, or even to maybe incentivize school districts to say, look, if you spend 100% of your money in that year for students, to fix that. Obviously, the issue originally was that the money was sitting in the account not being spent on the students, which we all say is like, hey, that's the problem. We should address it. So we should try to, instead of just saying, hey, you're not spending it on the students, let's spend it on the teacher union salaries. I would like to maybe see a bill, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on a bill that would incentivize them to spend all of the money on TAG students, like the state of Iowa designated the money to begin with for.
I got a fun story to tell about that because my wife did teach talented and gifted kids. So, you know, there's some concern about that. Those programs are very, very important. So I was discussing with the school superintendent because we're trying to give them, you know, more flexibility on how they use their funds. So I said, well, what about the talented and gifted program? Are you going to consider using those funds? He said, oh, no, goodness, no, because now that parents have choice, they might take their kids out and go to a private school. So it's already working. I mean, it's already working that they're thinking about the fact that there's competition there now, and they have to think in terms of the best. So I would hope that that is not going to happen in any school district in the talented and gifted funding, but you're right, we need to keep an eye on that.
Hi there, my name is Josh Bingaman. I'm the lead pastor of First Church of the Open Bible, just a couple blocks from here. And my question is how can communities of faith help in this fight to protect our children? And what would you like to see happen in the churches across Iowa?
Churches across Iowa need to be mobilized and mobilize their people to get involved. Yeah. It's time for churches and the pastors and their people to stand up and protect kids. And I'm so glad that you're wanting to get in that fight. We need way more in that fight. The church should be the first defenders of kids.
Yeah, well, just to add on, I think tell the truth about what's going on. I think as I've seen the spiritual communities in my area, some people are still tippy-toeing around the issue. So I mean, just being direct and as honest as possible. Say, kids are in school, and the school has taken the responsibility to form that child's identity, and they're not forming that identity in a very godly way, and so we need to reclaim that responsibility. Just as much direct and honesty as possible. Thank you. Thank you for taking that leadership.
If I could just also give a shout out to the family leader, because they're already mobilizing churches through a lot of programs.
So we got the family leader over here, and we got a legislator over here, a pastor, Brad Sherman. I know I'm talking about you. Great guy. Ask him that question because he will have answers. And yes, churches need to get engaged. They don't believe they actually have a voice when they do. They are not as muzzled as we have been taught for decades now, that they cannot talk about issues, especially when it comes to abortion. I mean, we should have, huge turnouts at the Capitol, and we should be protecting life. That is such a no-brainer. So yeah, talk to these people and get involved. Churches should be there. Let's keep moving.
Hi, my name is Kim. 1 second. People keep adding to the line. So this is truly the end of the line. The gentleman with the red tie, if anybody gets in line behind you, say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Julie, will you stand at the end of the line? Thank you. Okay.
Hi, my name is Kim. Thank you all for what you're doing and what you continue to do. I have a question. I have 3 boys, just one in school right now. He's at Grandview Christian. So right now we can afford it, but when the other 2 go, we may not be able to afford it. So we're very thankful for the school choice. But it says you can use the ESAs to pay tuition and fees at an accredited private school, the parent's choice. My question is, who does the accrediting, and is there a chance that whoever that is could potentially take the accreditation away from a private Christian school because they aren't teaching DEI, CRT, et cetera, et cetera?
So right now the accreditation, so the Department of Education has their own independent accreditation, and then they've also acknowledged other third-party accreditors. And then basically I think it's governed by Iowa Code 272C, and then the State Board of Education writes rules to implement. And going back to what Representative Holt said earlier, which is definitely a priority, when it comes to the State Board of Education and these other boards, we need to populate these with Moms for Liberty to make sure that we're always on the front lines and make sure that never happens.
Ease. Christian schools, there's a lot of accreditation for private schools that are not connected to government, and I don't believe that they could interfere with that. To answer your question, we're not going to let that happen, but I don't think they could by law anyway.
My name is Nicole. I used to be in special education. How we can make special education in private schools better, so special education students have a choice in that school.
Sorry, we can't get the microphone to work. I'm so glad that you came up and asked. I think that we do have, we're moving in the right direction. I think that when we have these private schools move forward and this money start to fund these systems, you're gonna see, I hope, some schools pop up that are just, you know, you might have just a pod that just has these teachers that really specialize in certain things, and they can just really focus on that need of those students. I really hope that we see that, because that is where you start to really individualize education. So let's hope that the school choice bill really makes a difference.
One thing in regards to that issue of special needs in private school, right now you see public and private partnership when it comes to issues of transportation, and with any major piece of legislation, you're going to have touch-up legislation that needs to come. So those discussions are taking place. How can we create and foster a great environment for public and private to work together to meet the needs of the special needs community? And so thank you for that question.
And one last point I'd like you to consider, there really, no amount of money can replace a high-quality person in these positions. People who really love and care the person they're educating, most especially when it comes to accommodating these special needs. So as we work to reform the licensure and open up avenues for more competent professionals to get involved, and also as we work to proactively remove the bad apples, I think a challenge for each and every person can be, how can I get more involved in the school district? How can I become the educator on the front lines in the classroom, providing the actual love and attention these kids really deserve? So I think that's going to be something we all need to do. We've neglected our responsibility. We're going to need to get our own licensure. We're going to need to get in the schools if we're going to make sure this is done right.
Hi, my name's Audrey Bristow. I'm actually a senior at Johnston High School, so you know, I'm kind of in what you guys are talking about. And you may or may not recognize my name if you read the Iowa Standard. I was the girl who was kicked out of class because I wore a Second Amendment shirt, was kicked out of government. And yeah, the irony is not lost. I was also the girl who stood up to my school board because a boy masturbated next to me in class and licked his fingers clean, and they did nothing about it. Still haven't, it's been over a year. So I have more of a request than a question. I'm just asking you, please keep going, because what you're doing is impacting the schools, and they don't like it.
So that's the future right there. That's the answer to these problems. You get kicked out of class so they don't confuse you on your gender. That's the solution. God bless that young woman.
I got to say, since the news media is here, you should put that on TV tonight, huh?
Yeah, go interview the kid that sat next to her and get his side of the story too. I'm sorry.
I don't know if I want to follow that one. My son has autism, and he has an associate. Because of that, I feel like school choice doesn't, or I've been led to believe that school choice doesn't really work for us. We are also concerned that the money will have strings attached. When I found out about SEL and its Marxist roots, I would also challenge all of you to do the research behind that. I opted my kids out. After several attempts to opt out my autistic son, I was told that he couldn't be opted out because of his special needs goals. So what do you do when you can't opt out? And we also need to have consequences for these teachers that go against the law.
So I'm the guy that floor managed critical race theory, banning it in our schools. We have a bill moving. Now, there is teeth in the law. Let me make that clear. Back to the Board of Education. If the Board of Education and the Board of Educational Examiners would follow the law, there's plenty of teeth there, because when a teacher violates the law, they're violating their professional standards, and there should be consequences, but they just keep circling the wagons. So we do have a bill in work that will put teeth into the enforcement of critical race theory.
On the autism accommodation, I mean, this is definitely a work in progress, and what we just did is a big shock to the system, and it's going to take a couple years to see how it plays out, and institutions are going to evolve, because now there is a massive financial incentive and a lot more money on the table for these institutions. But there are some students that will be better accommodated in the public school, and again, just thank God for the parent on the front line who have those eyes on the child and bring these issues forward. So it's definitely a work in progress, and just keep reporting everything you see, keep being present, and let us know what we need to do to accommodate your child to the greatest extent we can.
If I could interject and ask a question myself, I mean, I was going to end with this, but let's go ahead and do that now if you wait 1 second. If someone has a concern like that, you see that mom speaking from her heart about her child with autism, who does she reach out with you all in your office? If she's in your district and she's your constituent, how does she get a hold of you guys? You wouldn't believe how many parents just have no idea how, like, they see you up here and they don't know how, they don't know who to listen, they don't know who will listen to them.
Yeah. You can get a hold of any one of us by emailing us, sending an email to our legislative account. And that's found on the Iowa Legislature website. So if you type in Iowa Legislature, that will come up, and then you can click on legislators, and it'll give our names, and it will give our email addresses, because they're too long for me to give it to you. But that would be how to get a hold of us, and then we have staff that can find out more information that would pinpoint help as much as possible to what your need is.
And I recommend you guys do that, even if you feel like it's just you and it's your one issue. But if any of these legislators get 10 of just you and your issue, they're like, oh, this is a real problem that maybe we do need to create policy for. And so, reach out, speak up, share your concerns. They don't know how to solve the problems if they don't know the problems are happening.
Well, and that's the thing, is just document what's going on, short, to the point, concise, leave your emotion out of it, but just tell us what happened in as few words as possible. Document it if you can. I mean, one of the things that's really driven this discussion has been when it's come out what's happening in the Ames curriculum for Black Lives Matter, or when a picture is posted of these obnoxious political flags in the school. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So document it, keep it to the point, and then be persistent. If we don't get back to you right away, feel free to send the email again tomorrow. I mean, this is your kid's health at stake, so don't afraid to be persistent. Do what you need to do to get noticed, and we're here to help.
And connect. Okay, connect with Moms for Liberty, connect with Protect My Innocence, connect with groups that have already answered some of those questions, because public schools are quite, they're hard to tackle, even the funding. We as a new freshman, I'm learning that the formula of the funding is like this monstrous thing, and so please connect, because somebody's already probably asked that question, and so find them.
Your Moms for Liberty chapter is a great resource. We're so tied to Leadership Institute, who's also going to be doing training on school district funding. It is very challenging. As former school board members, we can tell you. But we teach that. We teach our chapters about how the funding is, because it's important that you all are looking at your school district budgets. How they spend their money shows their priorities. I hope all of you will take time in your next week, go pull down your school district budget. If you can't find it on their website, that's problem number one. After that, if you have questions, contact your Moms for Liberty chapter. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Marissa, and I'm a teacher for Des Moines Public School District. It was said earlier in the evening by one of your speakers that politicians respond to power, not logic. So please try to keep up. The Williams Institute of UCLA did a study on 28,000 transgender individuals and found that they are 57.9% more likely to attempt suicide if they do not receive gender-affirming care than individuals who do not. Gender-affirming care refers to calling students by their preferred pronouns and preferred names, something as simple as that. These studies are so numerous and profound that the American Psychological Association, American Academy of Pediatrics, and American Academy of Child Adolescent Psychiatry all support gender-affirming care. My question to you is, are you prepared for child suicide rates to increase drastically if House File 8 and 9 are passed?
I'm going to let you all answer that, but I just want to thank you. You are the first person to come up here with maybe an opinion that's a little different, or a belief system that's a little different than most of the people in this room. You're not screaming, you're not shouting, you're asking your question. So thank you for that. Now, I hope one of you will be brave enough to try to
I'll take a stab at it. And again, thank you for articulating a very well-founded question. That is a very important question, and that's what we've been hearing is that what we're going to do is result in transgender suicide. There's a lot of interesting aspects of this. One, I would push back on the numerous and volume of the studies that exist. I think there's a lot more research that needs to take place. Personally, I have been reviewing the WPATH standards of practice and care for transgender individuals. You say affirmation includes use of pronouns and accommodations like that of social transitioning, but gender-affirming care also includes medical procedures and surgical interventions as well. And again, it gets a very kind of slippery slope where, if someone's having a private conversation with a school counselor and they say, hey, use me by these names and don't tell my parents, and then they don't, and then they come back 6 months later and say, give me a breast binder or help me get testosterone or cross-sex hormones, does the child really understand the full implications of that? When we talk about these surgeries, how does the informed consent process work? If a kid, I would argue that if a kid is too young to be having sex, they're probably too young to be changing their sex. There's a lot about these pathologies that are not well understood. WPATH, in their practice of care, admit this, that there's a lot of things that are not well understood. They'll admit that people in the transition process, it exacerbates their other mental illness. I've attended a funeral for a transgender suicide. I take it extremely seriously. It leaves a black hole of despair in the community. But in that situation, in that case study of my community, for the people that I represent, that kid was absolutely loved and supported, had everything they needed, was supported by their parents, had the school district celebrate them. When I met with the parent, you know what they told me? The kid was lonely. And no amount of affirmation therapy, no amount of pharmaceuticals could fix the loneliness in the child. So these things happen. The practice of medicine takes time. I think there's a lot going on. There's a lot happening in Europe. I don't know if you know about the Tavistock Gender Clinic in London, where they were sued and shut down because they were not properly having informed consent. And also people came back and said that the doctor recommended pills and surgery. They didn't talk about my alcoholism. They didn't talk about my depression. A lot of the suicidal ideations, they're pre-existing prior to the gender dysphoria. So there's a gigantic picture here. We all want what's best for the children, but I think we really need to be careful about the standards of practice and what we allow young people to decide on their own. And no matter what's happening, no matter how that child expresses himself, It's in the child's best interest that they do so with parental supervision. So I really appreciate you bringing this forward. This is obviously going to be a discussion we have a lot. I know other states have done things to prohibit these therapies. So I think this is a conversation we're going to have as a state to really decide what is the best standards of practice and care and what do kids need to alleviate the dysphoria and form actual identities that can be healthy and happy for the rest of their lives.
I would also just like to follow up with, first of all, I don't want us being painted as people that don't love and care about others. I absolutely do. But what I want to get back to on that bill is if you take out all the words and you just say, teachers can't keep secrets from parents. That's it. No, all the issues, all of them. You don't get to keep secrets from the parents. In California, they're vaccinating kids without the parents knowing. So when you start one issue, regardless of what that issue is, right? If we just take, that bill came forward with those words on it, but if you just take it at the root, why would we start a situation where teachers keep secrets from children, ever?
And I just have to add, if you want to talk about mental illness, why are we telling second graders that aren't even thinking about any of this that they can be a boy or girl, both, neither, or something else, and then we wonder why we're having mental health crisis?
As a mother and as an educator, I always try to seek to understand first. So with that, Dr. King has said that character and intelligence are the true goals of education. So with that, I ask, how do we prevent the history that nobody wants to talk about or that we want to taper down? How do we prevent that from happening again? Whenever we narrow a focus, whenever the pendulum just swings too far one way, it is our persons of color who suffer. It is our marginalized who suffer. It is our children who suffer. So how do we keep this bill from creating a more embedded systematic racism?
Having written 802, I can tell you that in the divisive concepts that we prohibit, we specifically state in the bill that it does not prohibit the teaching of history. It does not prohibit the teaching of the mistakes we have made in our country's history. It specifically says that. It specifically says it doesn't even prevent the teaching of the prohibited concepts as part of a larger academic discussion. So here we are, because we said that. There are some school districts that are using that now to simply continue to teach critical race theory. There is a difference between teaching the mistakes of our history and teaching that if you're white, you're oppressed. If you're a minority, you're an oppressor. That is un-American. That is Marxism. And there's a difference between history and that garbage. So knock yourself out teaching the mistakes of our country, because that's how we become a more perfect union. But you don't teach white kids that they're an oppressor because they're white. You don't teach minority children that because they're a minority, they're oppressed. That is anti-American, it's Marxist, and it's not going to go well, and we're already seeing the consequences of that on the streets of our country right now. The other thing I will mention as a 20-year Marine, folks, the military services are already unable to meet their recruiting goals. Why do we believe, if we're teaching our young people that our country is evil and that our country is this racist thing that they're teaching as part of this critical race theory, why do we believe for a minute that these young people are going to be willing to stand up and defend our country when the crap hits the fan?
Yes, sir.
Again, I want to thank the questioner for a very well thought out, articulate question. And also, I mean, evoking the memory of Dr. Martin Luther King, who I think has the antidote to critical race theory, that we judge people based on the content of their character and not on the color of their skin. And ultimately, that's what critical race theory is doing. And the book that was removed from my school district was advocating for racial discrimination. The author was the type of guy who said the only antidote to past discrimination is present discrimination, and white people need to pay. I think the other antidote to this is Iowa history. We heard tonight that we segregated schools, or desegregated them, 80 years more before Brown versus the Board of Education. Iowa has been a civil rights leader as a free state from the very beginning. From the very first Iowa Supreme Court case in the matter of Ralph, which protected the freedom of an escaped slave. So this Iowa history, and in my area, you want to teach that, oh, all white people are oppressors, when our area, we have Underground Railroad exhibitions, again, of people, white people, who sacrificed, put a lot on the line to help people into freedom when our nation wasn't as tolerant as it was today. The other aspect of this too, when we talk about privilege and systems of privilege, so I'm very privileged, I admit that freely. I don't think it comes from my white skin as much as having a mother and father that love me very much and were there for me and were able to invest in my education. The other amount we look at this, look at what Iowa's done with keeping kids in schools, and all the data we have on how kids that were kept out of school in the pandemic have fared far worse in just about every single category. So to me, it's very, very clear. A black kid living in Iowa that has the privilege to be in school in person is way more privileged than a white kid in Minnesota or Illinois that did not have the same right to be in school. So I think it's very important to look at the overall systems and how they affect people, but thankfully we're always striving towards freedom and justice, and just thank God for the Americans that have made that possible, because we really do truly live in a great country.
Representatives, first of all, thank you so much for just standing here and fighting for our freedoms. We greatly appreciate it. We need men and women to do that. I'm 18. I'll be 19 in February, and this year I'll be paying taxes for the first time. I was just curious. So with the school choice bill, where we've got money that allows families to have more of a say in their kids' education, is there possibilities for a bill in the future that would allow possibly me as a taxpayer to choose what school my property taxes go? So.
Yes. Great question.
Sir, I'd recommend you join your local farm bureau and get on their advocacy council.
The school choice conversation is always going to continue. And, I hope we have the conversation about homeschool. I hope we do have the conversation about property tax. And these are healthy conversations to have. And welcome to the taxpaying world. So one thing I wanted to hit on earlier that I haven't said, and I know we're getting close to closing, is a number that stood out to me here a couple months ago was Iowa Economic Development did a survey of corporations and employees outside the state, and what did they think of Iowa before COVID? And Iowa received 11% negativity rating, and to put that in perspective, it was pretty much average with other states at that time. During COVID and then after COVID, they decided to do the same survey again. That negativity rating went from 11% down to 5%. I think it's due to good tax policy. I think it's due to getting kids back in the classroom. I think it has a whole, there's many, many reasons, but I cannot wait to see what this new survey is next year when the nation sees that we are having this important conversation about school choice that started way back in 1955 with Milton Friedman back at that time. Iowa was a leader prior to today in homeschool, in education, and that's such an honorable place to be in. But so So this school choice fight is, I believe, the best thing that we can do in our state to attract more workers, more teachers from other states that are having to take oaths of loyalty to whatever cause. Like, Iowa is a place to teach, it's a place to learn, and it's a place to have your values respected with your education dollars. So, thank you.
Okay. Okay, our evening is coming to a close. I just want to, if you guys want to go down the line real quick, if there's any final remarks you want to make, anything that came up tonight that you want to respond to, you want to talk a little bit about, just a minute, literally, like a minute most. Everybody's getting a little tired, I know.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, they're already leaving. Thank you. Thank you for coming. It is late. Say your names as you close, and okay. Say your names and any final remarks, please. If you want to start at the end there, sir, and come down the line.
Especially for those that apparently don't like what we're saying tonight, it's Stephen, S-T-E-V-E-N, Holt, H-O-L-T, and my email address is stephen.holt@legis.iowa.gov. I am honored to sit up here with this group of patriots, and honored to be in this theater with this group of patriots. We are fighting for the future of our children and the future of our republic. We have to be just as willing to fight to save it as the other side seems to be willing to fight to destroy it. So let's get busy.
I'm Brooke Bowden, and you can go to iowalegis.com and find me there. And I'll just remind you again, as Republicans, we do care. We love everybody as much as anyone else. We are here to listen. We represent all of the people once we're elected, all of the people. You can call me and talk to me as long as you're civil. And I will love to have a great conversation with you.
Senator Jesse Green, green like the color. It's such an honor to serve you. I'm the youngest Republican in the Senate. I like that title, but anyway, so just come to the Capitol anytime and look me up. I serve the Boone area, and thanks for putting this on tonight.
Yeah, my name's Dan Gelbach. A lot of people get that wrong, so it's Gelbach, like the composer. It's been an honor to be here tonight and to be included on this great panel as a freshman legislator. You just be bold. If you don't have to run for office, I know there's some candidates in the audience, but get involved with your schools. Be a presence. Write letters. Write emails. We want to hear from you, and I've seen it happen at the school board level, and I've seen it at the Capitol. Your presence and your involvement makes a difference. It's what makes good legislation and what makes good legislators too. So just stay involved and keep fighting. Thank you.
State Senator Sandy Salmon, and I would just say these things that we're trying to do are not going to happen unless you contact legislators. You can contact more than just your own. You can contact everybody, and you got to be persistent. You got to keep it up. You got to make phone calls. You got to come up to the Capitol and talk to us. Well, those of us here are in agreement with you, but you need to start working on those that you may not know their position, and they'd be good ones to work on. Because I can tell you again, these things will not happen unless you get involved and speak up and speak out. And I know I'm speaking to the choir here because you guys are already doing it, but that's what it takes to get some good things done here in the state. So thank you so much for your involvement, your enthusiasm, your love for our country. Bless you all.
So again, just thank you, everyone. My name is Jeff Shipley, and thanks to God and each and every one of you for doing this important work and having these very important conversations. A lot of it is just showing up and being a part of the conversation. And if you can show up in the right place and at the right time with the right uniform on, that really helps too. But basically what you're doing is you're establishing yourself as the trusted leaders in the community. You're establishing yourself as the leaders in your community that can provide for children the healthiest and happiest education and future. There's a lot of people in the middle, right? I think the biggest thing we're up against is this kind of apathy of, what's really going on, and we're all exhausted, and the news cycle is driving us all insane. So it's really hard to sift through this. So when someone's looking at the school board and seeing what's going on, and when they see Moms for Liberty, you just need to make it abundantly clear to help people make the right choice. And I think we're doing it with events like tonight. So again, just thank you guys for all you're doing, and it really is an honor to be working with you to craft great laws for the future of our children.
So again, Helena Hayes. And I just want to say, one thing I've learned in my experience is that primaries matter. Stay engaged in that. Yeah. Because most of us are probably Republicans here, and we don't want to make this about, political parties, but yet not all Republicans are even made the same. We have some very conservative, biblical-minded Republicans up here who are willing to take a stand for the living God. And so please pay attention. We got 2 more years to those next primaries, which happened in June, okay? So,
Just 1 year.
1 year?
Yeah.
No, that's too soon.
Filing deadline will be roughly March of 2024.
Don't remind me. Okay, so thank you all, and it is late enough. Tomorrow's a new day. Get up and fight again tomorrow.
That was a perfect closing. We want to thank you all. Give all of our legislators a round of applause for spending time with us this evening. They get invited to a lot of these things, and it gets tiring. So thank you, and thank you all for all the work you're doing. Have a good night.